Hello, I'm Christine Rigda, and I'm the Records Management Librarian for the university. And I want to talk to you today about records management and, what is it and what you and your office need to do to be in compliance. Maybe you're already doing, you're already disposing of records according to a retention schedule and, you think you're going along fine, or maybe you're not doing anything at all. And this is just to give you an overview and, maybe you'll pick up some things that you didn't know and maybe learn some things that you didn't know. So first off, I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to go through the basics. What is a record? So under the Ohio Public Records Act, a record is any document, device, or item that is stored on a fixed medium and created, received, or sent under the jurisdiction of a public office. And most important for us, it documents the organization's functions, policies, decisions, procedures, operations, or other activities of the office. So what that means is that we're basically creating records all the time. And most university business requires following a retention schedule. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I created a general retention schedule for the whole university because we have, a lot of our offices are creating the same types of records all the time. And I wanted to have a document that, so everyone didn't have to recreate the wheel here. So I'm going to be talking about that general retention schedule. But most university business requires following it, except for transient records. And transient records are the things that we do day to day that they don't necessarily document the organization, or there's something, they're drafts, they're copies of documents. We don't hold the original. They're documents that are superseded, like minutes. You only want the official copy of the minutes. You don't care about drafts. So transient records don't count here. And if you have any questions about what is a transient record, I have my email address at the end of this presentation, and you can look me up too. So I talked a little bit about this retention schedule. That's how long we keep things and what we do with records when we no longer need them. We may destroy them, shred them. We may transfer them to archives if they have historical value. And we follow guidelines, of course. None of this is just pulled out of the air. We follow guidelines from the Inter-University Council of Ohio. And this is taken from the University of Toledo policy on records management and retention. And it just states that, we follow the IUC's manual. I want to talk a little bit now about why we need to do any of this. It's just, some of it's just the obvious, efficient management of resources, paper documents. If you're living in the paper world, they take up a lot of space. People have built buildings to house these things. And, we need to be able to dispose of things timely, not just put them in a box and forget about them. And it also helps organize, make them easier to locate when you do need them. Another very important thing is compliance. We need to follow state and federal regulations. And a third would be historical value, some kind of memory of the organization, so that there's some kind of record for future generations. Another thing is accountability. We report to many different bodies, the public, students, government, the board of trustees, funding agencies, and so on. And another thing which, this probably would motivate most people, especially if it happens. I don't know if it has happened here, but liability. You know, if there's any kind of lawsuit or anything that's being investigated, you know, if you keep your documents too long, you're liable. You know, you have them and you have to turn them over if they're requested. So we want to make sure that we dispose of things when they need to be disposed of. So how do you do this? If you are looking at your documents, you can create an inventory of them. And this especially goes, you know, for you know, the print and electronic documents, because electronic records are considered records. Create an inventory, know what you have, consult the general schedule, and I will be showing you where to find that. It's based on the IUC schedule, because you know, we don't want to just create rules out of nothing. So it's based on IUC. And so if you find things there on the general schedule, you don't need to create your own separate retention schedule. But if there's something that you have that differs, it's not found on the general schedule or the retention period, you won't have a different retention period based on some other rule, you need to fill out a retention schedule for your department. And it'll be available, it is available, a template for the retention schedule on the records management website, which I will show you a little bit later. Or you can just come up with something and email it to recordsmanagement@utoledo.edu. It's just important that you have it. And so then once it's approved, it will be filed and will be posted on the records management site. And that site is located here. And it's off the Kennedy Center. So what I do, easy way to find it is to just do a search, go to the university's webpage, do a search for records management, and it'll come up as your first hit. So disposing of records now, what you need to do is identify if any records need to be transferred to archives for permanent retention if they have historical value. And you know, then the rest of the things, you're going to fill out a certificate of disposal, and that will be found on the records management website. And send it to me. I'll sign it, we'll both sign it, and then I'll upload it to the records management site. And that's good to have. We need to have this for everything that's disposed of. So in case anybody's asking, we have a record. Okay, so big question, what about electronic records? So, you know, I've alluded to this, that they are indeed records. They include email, Word, Excel documents, voicemail and text messages, surprisingly enough, and systems such as Banner. And a lot of these things we don't have to worry about. Our email is managed by IT. Voicemail is also taken care of, and most of those things are transient, because when someone leaves you a voicemail message, it's usually, please call me, you know, and then you return the call. So most of those things are going to be transient. And text messages, you know, whether they're on your own personal device or from a device that is given to you by the university or under a stipend from the university, they can be requested if there is a legal matter. So I'm not going to say too much about that right now. We don't have a system to offload text messages, and but we want you to be aware of this, so that, well, be careful what you text. You know, it's probably not a good idea to do official university business through text messages. And then Banner, you know, those are managed by IT, who is following our schedule. Again, they follow the same guidelines as print. And I just want to give you a few tips here about file naming your electronic records. You know, Z drives can be really a mess. I know it's very difficult sometimes to find things on them because you know, many people usually put files on them and their naming conventions or whatever they are feeling at the moment. So it's very good to go through the Z drive, remove files that are no longer useful, kind of organize it, reorganize it. You know, it's a huge project, but they should be organized, and the retention schedule should be consulted. And make sure folders describe what they contain so you can find them and name them appropriately. Okay, it's just examples here of naming conventions, you know, year, um, folder, type of record, and then it gets more specific as it goes on. And mark whether it's a draft or not. So that's just records management in a nutshell. Thank you for watching. And if you'd like to see the records management website, I'll take you on a tour. Please look at the next video in this series. Thank you.